moving forward, let's now go to our neighboring country, Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, as Winston called it. So in Uganda, MTN, which is the biggest telco, that is MTN Uganda, which is a subsidiary of MTN Group, that is in South Africa. So they're planning to list at the Uganda Securities Exchange.
Planning or forced?
So here's the thing for some of our viewers who may not be conversant with this. The government of Uganda has they've created a framework where for them to renew the telcos licenses, they have to at least issue 20% of their ownership to the public by listing at the BOUS. So what MTN is doing, they are actually complying with the regulations,
You can't dare put a force against the woman.
So that has been another debate where is this thing organic or is it forced, and how will it happen? So some of the details are they're going to look for $1.2 billion.
I thought they paid it.
No. This is what they want to raise.
Okay.
In the IPO.
Okay.
At the BOUS. So, and MTN has been doing well. Last year they made 108 MTN Uganda. They've made $108 million in profits. It's good money.
Good numbers. Yeah.
They've been there since 1998. It's a good business. They've stayed there for quite a long time. And an interesting thing is that this IPO will only be limited to the 6 EAC countries. That is Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan. So it's a good time to invest. I think there are around 6 companies listed in the Uganda Securities Exchange.
Only?
What?
Only 6?
What?
Just Google and you'll see.
Yes.
I think there are very few, and this is going to be, as I normally call it, a fizzy IPO. I think a lot of Kenyans are actually going to invest there. It's a great opportunity. And actually, right now, if you look at the numbers, you find that MTN Group actually owns around 90% of MTN Uganda. So this is going to be a really good opportunity for investors. And it's gonna one thing that really
they have 17 companies.
They have 17 companies. So one thing that really, as they have 17 companies right now, one important thing that really sort of like amused me is the fact that when MTN lists there, it's gonna double the market capitalization of the Uganda Securities Exchange. And this just goes back to speak about how nascent our financial markets are in East Africa.
Yeah, but yet again, it's another telecom operator dominating
a market,
a BOUS in East Africa.
Just like Safaricom.
Yeah. So as in how big, just shows that the markets are nascent, but then also how big the tech,
the telecom,
the telecom market, communication is.
And I think also it speaks to the need for the huge amount of initial capital required as an investment for that industry.
So that's a barrier, sort of a high barrier for entry.
Yeah, because you've seen also the amounts that even were charged to, like when you're looking at the Safaricom entry into Ethiopia. The amounts paid just for licensing. It's a crazy expensive venture.
And you can see from MTN, they were not really happy about this because, first of all, you can see that from the fact that they are issuing just the bare minimum, 20%. That's what the government has said, that the minimum is 20%. That's what you're going to issue. You understand? So it's not like they're happy about this.
But the market, the Ugandan market for them is very key. So is good. So they you have to do everything that they want so that you keep it.
And you see, I understand the government because, again, like you've said, MTN Uganda was owned 90% of it was owned by the
MTN
Group. I think less than 5% was owned by one guy. I would like to know that guy. People are very rich outside here. Anyway, less than 5% was owned by some Ugandan businessman.
Yeah, it was actually 96% was owned by MTN.
Now
MTN Group.
That leaves like 4%.
Yeah.
So you can only 2 entities own this the whole company. Such a big monopoly in a company in a country. And so what you're talking about the other time, the effect of this. I remember there's a time we were talking about the NSC and the fact that
repatriation of profits.
exactly. So there's a lot of capital outflow.
Yeah.
Capital no, it's not capital flights, but money is leaving the country each and every.
Yeah, because the profit
every
that is made out of that,
Sent to the group.
it's sent to the group,
Which is headquartered in South Africa, out of Uganda.
Absolutely, the earnings go there.
I understand.
So the Ugandans who are really using MTN on a day-to-day basis, making money for it, profits never really come to them.
Exactly.
And even now, it still stretches the conversation to the fact that right now when it lists, I think Kenyans are going to rush there even more than Ugandans.
Do you know, it
and
was
external
crazy.
investors.
It was
so
crazy
at the
the
end of
number
the day,
of retail investors who trade on the Ugandan stock exchange. It was in the tens of thousands just before this. So it's about it's they project the retail investors, the number of retail investors to grow from the tens to around 200,000.
So
can you imagine that?
And
Those
what's
are very
the composition of that? I mean, I would love to know the composition. You see, the way in Kenya we know that 70% are external investors. I would love to know the numbers for Uganda, because I think it's more or less the same, if not worse.
I think
so it will still be more or less the same thing.
Yeah, because even if you were to look at the composition of the companies that are in the Uganda Securities Exchange, if you were to look at the number that are Kenyan, so we have
Centum, I'm sure.
Yeah, Centum is there. You have EABL, you have Jubilee, you have KQ, you have KCB Group,
KCP.
You have Equity.
Wait, all that?
Uchumi is still there.
Come on.
Nation Media.
So all that.
So is that
out of 17? What percentage
that's
is
8.
that?
So it's more than 50.
Considerable percentage.
Yeah, almost half are Kenyan companies or Kenyan companies, Kenyan roots. So
is Nakumatt still there?
No. It was it listed there?
No.
Nakumatt was never listed.
They just issued a corporate.
Yeah.
But that was in Kenya still.
Yeah.
So anyway, I understand what the government is doing because even in Kenya that's what it did. The government, I think, owns 35% of Safaricom. Safaricom, and then
the other 35% is owned by the
Vodafone and Vodacom.
Actually, Vodafone is the UK one. Vodacom is the South African one.
Yeah.
Then I think 25% is the one that is led to now the
for
Common Mwananchi.
Yeah.
And now Uganda is 20%, so they're quite similar.
Yeah. But for Kenya, it wasn't because. Was it also because of an obligation? No, it was not because they were obligated to go to the market, were they?
I'm not sure about that.
They went there to raise capital.
But I don't think they were obligated.
Safaricom was decided to be listed, went to the market,
but when they
raise capital.
Okay, but when they went to get listed, was it
on their own volition?
Was it? It was the share of the government ownership that went to the market. Whose share went to the market?
Safaricom.
That's a really good question.
Who are these guys? The guy who's now in Michael Joseph.
Yeah.
When he came and set up shop in Nairobi in 2008, around that time. No, earlier.
It was earlier.
And they struggled quite some time. Then they established roots. Then now when it was time to now expand, because you see, you try and develop your product. Once you determine that it's viable and it can breathe in that environment.
Yeah.
Now you can seek to grow it and make it huge.
Yeah.
So they'd gotten to that point. Now to raise the capital to expand to, because you see, as I'd said again, the capital required for this industry it's humongous. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge.
Put on those to put the masts,
and
the wires. Back then they were using the wires. Saizi they're doing underground cables.
Yeah, fiber optic cables.
It's a lot. It's a lot of capital. It's very capital intensive, that industry. So when that time reached, they went now to the market to raise capital, which is like the biggest reason people or companies get listed.
Yeah, and there was a time that Dan wanted to create a company that could rival Safaricom, and I was like, this guy is joking, but it's not impossible. So you've seen the initial investments and the like. So start preparing yourself.
Who tells you he's not able?
Should Safaricom be worried, Dan? Should Safaricom be worried about you?
I don't know whether they should be worried in my lifetime, but when my children are in the picture, probably. But the answer to my question was yes, it was actually the government's shares that were listed. Yeah, so the government put up 25% of its shares.
So it owned 55.
Yes, because initially the roots of Safaricom started. Was it as a branch of Telcom?
Telcom Kenya.
Yeah, and then now it's like a split off from Telcom. So it was owned majorly by the government, and then I think that was around the time when the government was keen on privatization of
State
most.
enterprises.
So I think this was part of the project. It's something I love to go read up on more, but the shares that are currently being traded in the market were 25% of
the government
that was owned by the government.
Because it makes sense, because I think what actually happens was Safaricom came as a separate entity, then they merged with Telcom company, which was the government state-owned entity that was pre-existing when they were coming, at the time they were coming. I think now they came in with the whichever terms they decided to merge with. Then Safaricom was coming with HR and progressive thinking and qualified staff. Then now Telcom Kenya had the infrastructure, so they decided to merge and make a bigger thing. So that given that Telcom Kenya had already the infrastructure, which is really the biggest chunk of what is required to make this investment, it would only make sense for the government to own more or to be the controlling entity for this now, the merger now, whatever resulted of the merger. So 55, then they sell 30, they sell 25.
Yeah, they sold 25%.
And they remain with 30.
Yeah, so the government has 35%. Vodacom, is it Vodacom or Vodafone?
Vodacom has, I think, around 25, if not 35.
Yeah, so government 35%, Vodacom 35%, Vodafone 5%, and then Free Float, the one that is
so
in the
it's
market,
interesting
25%.
that Vodafone owns 5% and Vodacom, which is the South African, owns 35%. But then Vodafone, that is the UK one, which owns 5% of Safaricom, also is the parent company of Vodacom in South Africa.
Voda mingi.
It's usually a bit confusing for many people. And even if you look at how they went into Ethiopia, a company was registered in Ethiopia, then the company again, then a company that owns that, again is registered in Amsterdam and the likes. I don't want to say a lot about Amsterdam. Easter is looking at me in some way.
Some papers. What are they called? Pandora papers.